California, Democrat, member of Congress, Ro Khanna, and Georgia, Republican, Dr. Rich McCormick on together. Saturday night, thank you very much both for making time to have this conversation, especially together. Doc, Ro, thank you.
Good to be with you today.
Thank you.
All right, so first we go in party, then we go out party here. Doc, what is your response to this? We know the planes cleared airspace without incident, so the men and women involved are safe. What do you want to hear from the president at 10 o'clock tonight, and what are you worried about?
Well, I hope he fills us in on the details that he only knew. Obviously, he saw it as an existential threat that the uranium enrichment and the nuclear development was going to threaten not only Israel, but the United States. They've talked about it for years. I mean, actually for decades, about us being the great Satan, that Israel should be wiped off the face of the earth and develop nuclear weapons. And in the face of the treaties that we have given them money for, to do it whole-handedly, openly, really, in defiance of national limitations on what they were trying to do. It kind of sent the message that apparently we could not permit anymore, but I'm sure the president will lay out his justification for this, because he really has been going over the top to avoid this sort of immediate confrontation. So I think he'll explain his reasoning on it.
I mean, look, I would have agreed with you until today. I mean, I was telling everybody, yeah, 2 weeks is his catchphrase, but waiting is not weakness. And then he bombed the next day, and obviously this was already planned. So, you know, I think he pulled one over on me here, but that's his prerogative. Ro, my concern is, Representative, you guys are supposed to be doing this unless it's an exigent circumstance. The law is pretty clear, but what's more clear is that your brothers and sisters over the years have just given the president your constitutional duty. Assuming this isn't one and done, don't you guys think that you have to be in the game of discussing these things before they happen?
That's the central issue here. And Chris, Representative Massey and I have a war powers resolution. It's a bipartisan resolution that I hope will come for a vote on Monday, so that people can make their arguments in Congress. If you are for more strikes in Iran or want to get into a war in Iran, some people want regime change, they can argue for that. My view is it would be a mistake. I am with people on the progressive left, but also people like Tucker Carlson and Steve Bannon and Marjorie Taylor Greene, who think that this country doesn't need another Middle East war, that we should be focused on building Johnstown and Lorraine and investing in our country, not spending our blood and treasure in overseas wars. But at the very least, Peggy Noonan said it today, and this is what I want to hear from President Trump. I hope he says, okay, this was one and done, but now I want Congress to vote on it. I support Representative Massey and Khanna's efforts for Congress to debate this and have a vote. And it would actually give him the ability to be, to say, look, I'm doing what the Congress wants, as opposed to going it alone.
Well, Ro, I think that's too ambitious. Because I think what Congress needs to do is pass a resolution that, unless it is an exigent circumstance that threatens the homeland directly or interests or assets adjacent to the the area of the enemy, it is supposed to be your call. You guys have given that power to presidents again and again. I don't blame the president for doing this by himself, because you guys have let it happen. Administration after administration. That's what has to stop, not you guys voting on more in Iran. You'll never do that. You guys don't want to own it.
Well, there are people who want to own it. We should have this vote on Monday. I mean, Massey and I put the war powers resolution. I don't understand why we can't just have a vote on it. We should. I hope Speaker Johnson, I have a good relationship with the Speaker. I have a good relationship with Rich McCormick. We work together on the India caucus. All I'm saying is, let's have a vote on this. It's the most important thing a member of Congress can do. Should the country go to war, or should we not go to war? We should have a vote on this war powers resolution to assert is exactly what you're saying, to assert Congress's power over war and peace.
I got to chime in here just real quickly,
Doc,
if you don't mind.
I want you to come in. What do you think about this? And just one little added piece of context, and you take it any way you want, Doc.
Sure.
To ask Republicans, when MAGA is going at it with each other about this, to take a position on what happens next when they could just leave it to the president, is asking a lot from people who are really worried about the base. That's why I just don't see it happening. But give me your take, Doc.
Yeah, politically, you're right. I think that it's going to be hard to get people, especially that's a divisive point for the Republican Party. It's probably going to unite the Democratic Party. But I want to mark down this day that where Roe is on the same side as MTG. I just want to have everybody, I say a little tongue in cheek, but you can see how these really important issues kind of do divide us in some really strange ways. And we've seen it this year several times, actually, on several different, especially when it comes to government power and the president's power. I'm a guy who believes in the REINS Act, but limited authority to engage in specific strategic outcomes is not the same thing as declaring war. Remember, we bombed Libya to take out Muammar Gaddafi because of the threats that he posed to us in a limiting capacity. That's not the same thing as declaring war, not committing troops, not committing wholesale violence in extended periods of time. It is a strategic, or you can make it even a tactical strike for strategic reasons. I think that is something the president should be able to do because it's timely, and you may not have another opportunity to do that. And it may have decades-long impacts on America. And so you have to reserve those rights for the president in certain circumstances when you only have a small window of time. Because as you know, Congress is not exactly the most efficient at getting things done in a timely fashion.
I think the president has to make the case that that's what it was. But Ro, go
That's
ahead,
exactly
and then after you answer,
the
Ro,
Libya example is exactly what was wrong. I mean, I criticized Obama for taking those strikes without coming to Congress. And yeah, we got Gaddafi, but it turned out to be a mess afterwards. And I've been a critic of presidential power. This has nothing to do with Trump. This has been a problem with Democratic and Republican administrations where they've gone and struck without coming to Congress. I don't think that's how the Constitution works.
Yeah, look, Ro, I agree with you legally, but politically, we know why it's happened. Ever since they voted on the war and the Fugazi yellow cake and we went into Iraq, Congress does not want to own it. And especially on the right, the way MAGA is. Now, on the left, you have a similar dynamic, which is why you wind up in the same line with MTG and, a couple of the other zealots that you mentioned. Here's the question for you guys, though, Ro. I'm with you. You don't want to go bombing. You don't want to get involved. I totally get it. It hasn't worked out well for us in the past. How do you keep the regime from getting a nuclear weapon once you know they're trying to enrich the uranium, which we know? What is the answer then? How do you stop them?
Well, look, it is in the national interest to stop Iran from getting a nuclear bomb. The problem is now they're going to rip up the NPT. They're going to kick out all the inspectors. People may have had a problem with Obama's JCPOA, but under that agreement, Natanz was limited to 3.67% enrichment, under 5%. And the only enrichment allowed was at Natanz. There was no enrichment allowed at Fordow. Now, people said Iran was cheating. I believe they were cheating, but they weren't cheating to this level where they've gotten to 60% in Fordow and where they've gotten nuclear facilities spread out. My view is we need tough diplomacy to be able to restrict them in the enrichment. And I supported Donald Trump. There were people in my party who were criticizing Trump, saying, oh, he ripped up JCPOA. I said, no, if he wants to get a deal and if he can get a better deal than Obama, fine, let him try. But ultimately, that's what we need. Or we're going to have to bomb Iran every 2 to 3 years when they are going to continue to develop these weapons. And I don't think that's what the American people want to do.
Well, what do you think they want to do?
I think they want tough diplomacy. They get a deal where you have clearly under 5% enrichment and you have clear inspection guidelines. Yeah,
but you can't trust them, Ro. This is but who do you think you're doing a deal with here? These people want to kill you, and they lie as an operating procedure. And you made a deal. You can argue about Trump walking away from it, but you made a deal with a consortium of countries, which is how they got those frozen assets back that had been held for many, many years, some said illegally. It wasn't that Obama just gave it to them, but whatever, let's put that to the side. These guys lie, and the IAEA says they've been enriching uranium. So what good is a deal with these cats who hate us?
Well, look, the enrichment was much less. It was under 10%, even if they were cheating. It didn't get into 60, 70%, which they've gotten now. And so and look, there were problems with the deal. I'm not saying it was perfect. We didn't restrict the ballistic missiles. And Trump said, okay, you can get a better deal. I disagree with him. I supported the Obama deal. But my point is, Trump thinks he can get a better deal. Trump thinks he can get a deal. Iran is at its weakest point. I still hope this president, now that he's done this strike, is going to try to get a deal. And I will support him if he gets a deal to limit the enrichment. But that ultimately is the long run solution. And I think it's the best solution, not just for the United States, but also the security of Israel. Otherwise, my fear is Iran is going to learn the lesson of Pakistan and North Korea. You want the United States not to mess with you? Develop a nuclear bomb in secret.
I got to say something on this. I think the biggest thing right now is realize that Israel's not done. They are far from done, and they're going to look for a regime change. We may be done, and I hope we are, actually. Quite frankly, I don't think we want to have an extended war in any other country right now. But I think you're going to see Israel finish this. That's been their mantra the whole time, finish this. And when that happens, hopefully we have regime change and the people rise up and they have a democracy. That's best case scenario. Worst case scenario, you get another country with another theocracy or dictatorship, but at least they won't have nuclear weapons to threaten people with.
Well, not yet. They won't have it yet. I mean, look, here's the problem, okay? One, we have a terrible track record, okay? You cannot point at any country that we have messed with in that region and see that they are better now. Even Syria. I mean, there is so much optimism and silence being put on this new operating junta or whatever you want to call them there. You know that they're having raiding parties running around trying to kill Christians and other ethnic minorities inside Syria right now. You know, the idea that we think it's better, you know, Assad was a bad guy, gassed his own people. But that this is better, I don't know. Iraq, same or worse. Afghanistan, same or worse. Libya, same or worse. Egypt, same or worse. I mean, I was really enthusiastic about the Arab Spring. So our track record isn't great. But the question is, who is more scary to us in that region, Ro, than these guys? And nobody else is close to having a nuke. Nobody else is saying they want to kill us.
You're going to get no argument from me that the Iranian regime is a terrible regime that has supported terrorism, that chants death to America, that chants death to Israel. But as John Quincy Adams said, we can't go out and destroy every monster. It's just not feasible for the United States of America to do that. And a lot of times when we've done that, we get worse monsters that take their place. And we've made matters worse. I mean, we supported Iraq in the war against Iran, and then we created Saddam Hussein, and then he ended up turning up against us. We ended up arming the Al-Qaeda and the Mujahideen in Afghanistan against the Soviets. They turn against us. And I just think we need to have restraint. It's not just me. That was Trump. America first. Let's focus on our homeland. Yes, if there's a really existential threat, then we have to go attack. I don't think this rose to that level. And I think there were other ways, as Trump himself was saying, on diplomacy. And I rather he try for the Nobel Prize than go and get us into another war in the Middle East.
Well, look, Doc, I don't agree with you about the declaration of war. I do from your perspective, but if you were Iran, you would think it was a declaration of war. And if somebody did that to us here, we would think it was a declaration of war. So it's a very serious step. What is your concern and your risk tolerance in terms of retaliation? 30, 40,000 men and women and 19 different sites within striking range for Iran in the region. And obviously, you know, you've got extremism more than I've ever seen it right here at home.
Sure, but if you look at what's been happening over the last several decades, we've lost thousands of people due to extremists that have been armed by these folks themselves. We've been at war. Quite frankly, the Hezbollah, the Houthis, Hamas, we've lost American troops. 3 Georgians just last year from an Iranian-produced weapon deployed by our enemies, supported by Iran and the Iranian regime. So the fact that we have to worry about our troops, we always have to worry about our troops. I've been over there. I've been to Afghanistan, been in the Persian Gulf several times. Those are bad people that have always wanted to hurt us. The question is, are they more or less capable to hurt us now? And I think they're much less. They're hiding. They're wondering what their lives are going to be like instead of trying to worry about how they're going to harm us and Israel. I think that's a good thing. And whether we have a regime that turns over that's even more extreme, I sure as hell hope not. But if they do, at least we won't have those weapons of mass destruction. Whenever they produce weapons and threaten us and deploy them, we should take those out because that is a threat directly to our troops overseas, to our allies, and to the United States of America.
Ro, what do you want to hear from the president tonight? He's speaking just after 10 o'clock p.m. Eastern time.
I'm going to hear a few things. One, that this was a one and done thing, that we're not going to get into conflict. Two, that he is now still open to getting a peace agreement with Iran and that we need to bring the war to an end. Three, that he understands that Congress should weigh in. And by the way, I am praying and hoping that Iran has the common sense not to retaliate. Because let me tell you, if they hit any of our troops, if they hit any of our assets, if they kill any Americans, you're not going to be hearing Ro Khanna or anyone in the Democratic Party saying, don't hit them back. And that's going to create a situation which could lead to a war. So I hope Iran recognizes that the dumbest thing they could do would be to retaliate against the United States. And I think that we should pass a war powers resolution to make it clear that we have no interest in going into war in Iran. But I hope the president makes it clear that this is a one-time thing and he has no interest in getting further enmeshed in a war.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for coming in such sudden circumstance on a Saturday night. I appreciate you both, and I appreciate you both coming on together. It means everything to the audience. The country needs it. Thank you for doing it. Dr. McCormick, appreciate you. Ro Khanna, as always, your old guys are always welcome here. God bless and be well until we see each other again.
Semper Fidelis.
Right.